Hi everyone, Tammy here, Flannel Chick MTB. Welcome to my channel. I'm coming to you today from beautiful Bragg Creek, Alberta. And today's video is number 3 in a 5-part series, 5 game changers for beginner mountain bikers. And in today's video, I want to share with you my third game changer. The third factor that I think made a huge difference for me in terms of my progression in skills on the bike and my confidence on the bike. So I'm going to get geared up, and why don't we go for a ride? So I cannot think of a single ride in Alberta that doesn't start with a climb. We are always climbing up to get our down. And since nobody wants to hear me huff and puff, I'll turn the camera off until I'm somewhere flat or until I'm on the fun down. The third factor that I think was a game changer for me in terms of helping me make progress on my bike, in terms of skills and confidence, is about riding with more advanced riders. Wow, dirt in February, crazy. Now, if you watched my second video, hearing me say riding with more advanced riders probably sounds like a contradiction. But I think they're both true. My son was on the race circuit, and I was hanging around with the other parents and other racers when I started riding. I found myself always riding with more advanced riders. More skilled riders, more experienced riders, essentially better riders. Of everyone, I was the newest maybe. I used to joke I was the weakest link. Now, when you're riding with riders who have 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years experience on you, you're often going to end up on trails that are well beyond your skill, your capacity. Now, because I was riding with riders who were better, and as a result, I was often on, as a green rider, on blue trails. I opted out when they rode black trails at that point. But because I was a green rider and I would join them on their blue laps, I would end up walking a lot. And so you may wonder, how does walking your bike help you with progress? And that leads me to point 1 of why I think riding with more advanced riders is a game changer. And that's exposure. There really is, I think, something helpful in your eyes and your brain being exposed to a trail. And that exposure helped me be a little more comfortable when it came time to ride sections of those trails, features of those trails. So I think exposure is one of the factors that's helpful when you're riding with more advanced riders. It is a dog's breakfast out here today. All season riding. This really is so unusual, this type of condition for February in Alberta. I know weather is wonky everywhere this year. The big windstorm came through here months ago. Lots of down trees. I think thousands of trees were cleared just from this area alone. The other factor that I think is helpful in riding with more advanced riders is modeling. We know that observing a model perform a skill or a task aids in learning. And so, even though I was walking a lot in those days, just watching more advanced riders ride the sections as I stood trailside or stood at the bottom, watching them, I'm convinced helped in my learning. Watching their body position, watching their line choice, watching them and seeing that although they were very skilled riders, they weren't doing anything extreme outside of the basic bike skills. And so, as I watched them ride sections or features that I walked, I was learning. I don't think I knew it at the time, but in hindsight I was. Now, although there are a lot of benefits to riding with more advanced riders, I think I'll just talk about one more piece. And for anyone out there who is maybe nervous or hesitant to ride with more experienced advanced riders, I think this is a really important piece, and that's opportunity. So as a more hesitant, tentative beginner rider, I would have never brought myself out to one of those more advanced trails that I joined my friends on. I would have stuck with what I was comfortable with, what was within, what I knew was within my riding capacity. And I would have never had the opportunity to push myself outside my comfort zone, to try certain sections of trail, to progress. So riding with more advanced riders, because the truth is I was joining them on their rides, they weren't joining me on the green trails, meant that I actually had the opportunity to progress. I needed to be on trails that were just in that sweet spot outside my comfort zone, where I probably had the skill, but hadn't proven it to myself yet. And so on those more advanced trails, I could pick and choose. I could walk the sections that I felt were well beyond me. I could watch the other riders ride them, model it for me. And I could choose to section sections and ride portions of those trails that I felt I was ready for. And the only way I was able to do that was because I had the opportunity in riding with more advanced riders to be on those trails to begin with. Brings me to an interesting topic. What is that sweet spot in terms of riding within your ability, being responsible, and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone to progress? Now, a lot of people have opinions about this, that you should never be on a trail that's not within your skill set. And of course I agree, within reason. But it really is impossible to develop unless you do put yourself on those trails within reason every once in a while. Because that's where we progress, that's where we stretch, that's where we grow. So what is that sweet spot in terms of riding within your skill set, your capacity, and pushing yourself to progress? And of course, that's such an individual call, not only between, person to person, but ride to ride. In fact, there may be some days where the line is completely different. You may be willing to try something on a ride that you weren't willing to try before, or vice versa. You might not be feeling something you've ridden successfully many times before, and need to say not today. In one of my upcoming videos, I'm going to share with you a little method I have for determining if I'm going to push myself to try something maybe I've never ridden before that I'm a little nervous about, or whether I'm just going to say, not today. It's important to know what factors you should be taking into account when you make that call. And I'll share with you some of the things that I consider. So again, although there are many factors that I think make for benefits in riding with better riders than you, exposure to more difficult trails breeds familiarity, breeds comfort. Modeling helps you learn watching other riders ride. When you're standing on the side of a trail or at the bottom watching, don't underestimate that you're learning something. And then finally, opportunity. You can't progress your skills unless you ride more difficult trail than you're used to. And riding with more experienced riders, especially friends or partners or people who care about you and are not going to drag you onto something that you're going to get hurt on, means you have the opportunity to session, to try sections, to push yourself a little bit. So game changer number 3 for me, riding with better riders. I owe a lot of my progress to those riders who were willing to slow down, let me follow them. This is interesting today. So in a nutshell, today's 3 of 5 video series, riding with more advanced riders, riding with better riders, and how I am convinced that was a huge game changer for me. I hope you found some value in this video. Thanks for watching game changer number 3, 3 of 5. If you haven't caught the first 2 videos, the link is in the description. So pop on over there and have a watch. In the meantime, happy riding, everyone.